Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Catherine Horton. I would like to explain my future plans. Just a second. Oh dear, just a second. I need to do an audio check, but they just screwed it up by magically putting in an advert that apparently I have to watch to just check my own channel. This is something new. Okay, let me just do an audio check. Okay, it sounds like you can hear me. So I would like to give you a couple of updates of what's going on and what my plans are for the near future. I would like to announce that I would like to migrate from the free YouTube platform to Patreon. Okay, and I'm very sorry about that. I've offered freebies for over 2 years now, and everything I've done was just completely for free and available, and all my work is out there for you to see, and it will remain so. Nothing that's out there will disappear. But as I'm now ramping up court preparations and the investigation, I need to fund my court cases coming up, and I need to find a way to support myself through this time, because I'm doing a lot of pro bono work. So behind the scenes, you don't notice because I'm not allowed to talk about confidential cases, but I am continuously involved in people preparing their court cases. I'm involved in active court cases. I'm supporting victims, and there's actually a very large number. So I'm trying to do this to bring everybody up to speed, because I'm, aware that the courts are so corrupted and under such complete Masonic crime cartel control, and that the only way we can actually have success with this is if we have a solid, wall of court cases that back each other up. So what I'm trying to do behind the scenes is bring all the victims up to speed, help them prepare their court case. And my idea is that if we all have the same standard of evidence, we can have, a pretty solid wall that's hopefully impermeable. So I would like all targets succeed at the same time. I also kind of expect that there will always be temporarily setbacks where maybe one case is battered down because that person hit the corrupt judge. But at the end of the day, even that case can be recovered on appeal as there's more evidence, and we can actually help every single person succeed if we do this together. But for that to be able to be pulled off, we have to be all hitting the courts roughly at the same time. We have to make references to each other's court cases. We have to keep tab on each other's court cases. And we have to put a lot of preparation into this. So this is what I'm really working on. So in a sense, I'm trying to be the fulcrum, and I'm trying to just, rotate the entire system by just pushing all the cases simultaneously. But it is an awful lot of work. And the vast majority of work I'm doing is behind the scenes. And I'm also doing it under extreme circumstances. So I haven't actually slept a night without being machine gunned into my head since February 2018. That's when my husband moved out, and I have been living on my own since then. And as you know, as soon as, a woman is isolated and vulnerable, the intelligence agencies absolutely descend down on that person. So that's what they did with me. They caused quite severe brain damage that, is kind of obvious in certain things that I do. And it's extremely painful throughout the day when I'm being tortured. And you can literally, I've just seen that my makeup is wearing off, and you can just see with your own eyes. I mean, this is not drawn in. You can see this straight line running across my face. Okay, this is not drawn on. This doesn't come off. It's actually wounds on my head, and you can see how laser just went straight across my forehead, and it actually consists of, I'm not sure if you can see, individual shots where they cooked the tissue. Okay, so you can literally see that my head was gunned, but so intensely that they mutilated my face. Again, there's other wounds on my forehead. You can probably still make out this half circle here where there's pigment damage. That comes from a beam pretty much this size. You can literally see the curvature of the beam, and this is where they're hitting me when I'm driving my car. And they always try to aim for the same location to cause brain damage. And they have microwaved my head. This is actually still, believe it or not, from last year when I had to flee to Hungary to complete the affidavit template. it caused permanent pigment damage to my skin, and without makeup, you can literally see a half circle where they just burned my skin permanently. And so this is the kind of mutilation I'm dealing with. I'm being machine gunned. I'm being tortured when I leave my house and drive my car. I'm being tortured when I go on a walk. The newest thing was to shoot me in the head directly from satellite as I'm out and about. I am absolutely machine gunned. Actually, I've just noticed that there was an impact on my wall next to me as I'm sitting here. And at night, they absolutely go nuts with the machine gunning. So I cannot remember the night where I could sleep just normally in a bed. I sleep under extreme shielding, stuff that would be considered military grade shielding for electromagnetic weapons, and still it's not enough to shield myself. So every night, and I fall asleep listening to the patter of pulse energy projectiles hitting the shielding. I have audio recordings from most nights for the past year, and it literally sounds like rain. The shots that come through knock on my skull. They trigger my optical nerve when they shoot straight through my brain. And then I close my eyes and literally I can hear shots, the impact, I can feel the knock, and then I have a light flash all simultaneously as the shots are fired through my skull. So this is how I sleep, and this is how I'm doing my work. At the same time, I'm doing a lot of consulting. I'm trying to help the victims. I'm doing a lot of things pro bono for people who just cannot afford it. And if you want to help me, if you think that this is something that should happen in our society, that victims should be helped by those who can help, if you think that people like me should be supported and should be, kept on society's life support to be able to last to the court cases and, continue their work, and maybe one day, heaven forbid, actually do the projects and launch the startups that I originally wanted to do before this entire targeting started. If you think that this should all happen, please, please support me financially. You can do that by signing up on Patreon. I would like to show my Patreon page. It is very, very easy. Really, it is. You can just use the normal payment services. And what Patreon will do for you is that it's kind of like, sorry, I'm actually showing you the wrong thing. I have to use this to, sorry, I stopped sharing the screen. Hang on, so what I'm trying to get is I'm trying to get enough money to be able to last through the court cases. So I have got running costs that I need to cover. I would like to also start scanning projects and expand them. But I have to basically use this to pay all my upkeep and pay all the expenses, which is why I just need your support. Okay. So there will be quite substantial expenses hitting me over the coming months. And I really, really need your help. So let me just, hang on. Maybe I can actually show you the posts separately, which is what I wanted to do. Yeah, I think here it is. So there we are. So what you can see is the posts that I've posted the last couple of times. So here we are. Let me share my screen. There we are. Yeah, okay. So what I will do from now on is you will recognize the banner that's here. You can click the link here to become a patron, and you will find, when you log in, you will find all the posts. At the moment, I have posted absolutely everything, even though there are tiers here on the side, which I will explain in a moment. I have posted most things such that they are just the publicly available YouTube links, right? So you can access most things like you can on YouTube. But then I also started posting stuff. This is what it will look like from now on. So you actually have to join in order to be able to unlock the post. Okay, so you will have to, actually become a member. Now, with the tiers, what I wanted to explain is that right now it's listed here as $5, for targets. And because I don't know who is a target and who isn't, right? The way I wanted to do it is that I will just have a flat fee of $5, and I will just post everything under the $5 regime, right? And I will just try it. I will run it as an experiment. Okay, so everything will be posted under $5. You can access all the contents for $5, but I actually appeal to the honesty of every person, because are you a target who has been asset stripped? Then I really just ask you to pay $5 per month, which is the equivalent of 2 coffees per month. So if you invited me for coffee once per month and I told you everything I know and everything I'm presenting here, this is essentially the expense that you're incurring, right? But most people can afford to support this endeavor with much more than $5. So I've just, put in, different tiers as suggestions, but you can really make any donation that you like. There's one for $10 per month, $20 per month, $50 per month. Originally, I wanted to make everybody who has to prepare a court case pay $50 because I'm putting so much effort in. But then I actually thought, those who have to prepare a court case most urgently are the most asset stripped. So this just doesn't make any sense. So this is actually an experiment, right, guys? Even though these tiers exist, I will tell you now that you can access the content for $5, and it's an experiment in human honesty and human dedication to a cause that is, actually indirectly helping to stop a genocide. Okay, how much is stopping a genocide worth for you, right? If you are paying so much amount per month for, I don't know what, your cable subscription, your mobile phone, your internet, or your newspaper subscriptions, or whatever else subscriptions you have, how much is it worth to you to stop this genocide? How much is it worth? And keep in mind that I have to pay for my upkeep, because right now I'm working on court cases flat out. It is absolutely impossible to earn my own money outside of consulting, right, to actually pay for my upkeep. And I would like to dedicate myself full time to supporting court cases, because stopping this madness is absolutely the top priority right now in 2019. So I really need your help, and then just ask yourself, how much is that worth to you? Would you support me? And then beyond that, I'm not asking any questions. It's up to you, to really be honest about how much this is worth to you. How much do you think you can give? Now, there's a wonderful example of this in a big German city. I think it might have been Berlin or maybe somewhere else, where a restaurant trialed this. Okay, so the restaurant owner said, you can pick anything on the menu and there are no prices at the end of whatever you consumed, all the drinks and all the food. You pay us how much you think this is actually worth. Okay, now this is a risky thing to do for a restaurant, right? Because they could go bankrupt in a week. But it's actually a thundering success, and they are making just as much as everybody else does, because most people, believe it or not, actually know the prices. They know, okay, how much did I actually pay at this restaurant? Was the food as good? Was it worse? Was it better? And in the end, what they are paying is exactly what the restaurant would have charged, right? And it's very honest. There's no, if you are on hard times and you really can't afford to pay and you need food, well, you can just go and pay $5, right, for a 3-course meal with drinks. But if you're really rich and you think, actually, this is really amazing, and I just paid so much down at that swanky restaurant and it wasn't actually that good, frankly, I'm willing to pay the same. Well, what you're doing is you're cross-subsidizing those people who just hit hard times, right? But we're all being honest. We're all actually showing how price sensitive we are. It's called, in economics, it's called price sensitivity. If you're a billionaire or multimillionaire, you just can't tell the difference between $5 and $25. I mean, you can if you're really stingy, and that's why you became a multimillionaire. But really, in terms of your pocket, you just don't feel the difference, which is why many people who are multimillionaires pay literally something like $80,000 for a car. for like an aluminum casing with an engine that was developed at the start of the 20th century. I mean, fuck me, that's just mental, you know? You can get the same perfectly functioning car looking pretty elegant and, you know, just as good for $3,000, but you're paying $80,000. I mean, for the, you know, $77,000 difference, you could start a fucking company, right? In some place of the world, you could buy a pretty big house for that, right? And yet you chose to invest it in aluminum casing with an engine that was developed 100 years ago. Okay, right? So this is price sensitivity. It's down to marketing. It's down to how much disposable income you have. And this now is going to be an experiment. And it's up to you. You know, I really would like at least $5 if you can, please, because I have massive expenses. And I'm not sure very many people are willing to do that. But if you can give more than $5 per month, I assure you, I'm not going to spend it on cocaine and hookers. I mean, look at me, I'm a physicist, okay? So what I will spend it on is court cases, because as you can actually see, you know, burnt into my forehead, I need to save my own life and that of my family, which automatically incentivizes me to have a successful court case, which automatically will help every single person, certainly in the UK, but also internationally. So that's the deal. And for those people who can't afford $5 per month, well, you know, please, 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 please help me, because I'm right at the front of this battle line. I have taken a lot of physical mutilation because I'm a court expert, you know, because I'm an expert witness, because I work on court cases, and because, frankly, every intelligence agency on the planet would benefit from my death. And they make me feel that every single day. So, you know, if you can't afford the $5, I'm very sorry. I don't want to exclude you. You still have everything I know free available from the last 2 years. That's already enough to get you started and have a successful court case. But if you can, maybe, you know, also think about crowdfunding, and, you know, maybe it incentivizes you to open a crowdfunding site yourself, get the $5 to access all my videos, and get even more for your own, you know, purposes as well. So that's the deal. Please make your way across to Patreon, and the URL is basically, let me show you again. You can find the URL here. If you search for Patreon, it's so it's like patron with an E, Patreon, and it's patreon.com/stop007. Okay, you can make your way across to there and just hit become a patron. And as I said, the minimum is $5, but please give as much as you think this entire endeavor is worth to you. You know, to keep listening to me and my, you know, sometimes sweary, sometimes more chirpy little videos, but I will try to bring you always the newest insights that I have. And I already have a few bombshells, you know, queued up for you. So there are 3 or 4 interviews, maybe even more, that should really blow your mind, that I will make available on Patreon only. There's also tomorrow there will be a broadcast, which will be my broadcast, kind of following on from the old the Global Crime Fighters that I started. I had to interrupt it because of the attacks and the load on me, but it actually is very kind of invigorating and relaxing for me to have a break from court cases and just do a broadcast. It is, as sad as it sounds, the only social interaction I have at the moment as I'm working on court cases, you know. So, you know, I just like to say hi to you guys and encourage you all to work on your court cases and so on. Okay. So that's something. The other thing that might change is that the chat might not be available for some of these things. Now, I know that for many of you, actually, the chat was one of the things that you really liked. You know, it was a way to meet people and to exchange things. But I also noted that the chat was very heavily kind of worked by Intel plants, and I could never really tell, you know, if everybody has as thick a skin as I have, towards these people. I mean, most of the time I just ignore them. You know, I really couldn't be bothered with these people. But you know, maybe if you are just much more sensitive, then, you know, this kind of stuff that they were writing was really upsetting, and you felt like, oh my God, it's just an uphill struggle. But you have to understand that was just an illusion. Okay, most of these people are Intel operatives. That's why they were right on the ball. As soon as I came online, they were right there, because they are monitoring my, you know, internet communications, and they start, you know, kind of talking to each other and pretending there's a community, even though most of them are fake. Okay, now I left it, and I haven't censored my the YouTube comments. I've never censored the chat, because I wanted you all to see it with your own eyes, what that's like, and to kind of study this whole phenomenon yourself, to screenshot all the messages that you thought were from agents. You can still do that. You can still build your own counter file, like kind of the anti-Stasi files on the Stasi people, if you like. And as kind of like an anthropological study, I just left it there, okay? But now, as we're moving towards court cases, I would like to invest in all of our mental states as well. I would like us all to kind of focus on the genuine people, because most of the time, right, these people are highly supportive. They are the total, complete opposite of what's going on in the chat. So you will typically not hear any discouraging comments. If you hear any criticism, it's typically positive criticism, as in, well, I wouldn't do this, why not rather do that, sort of thing, you know? And I just noticed that every single time I started talking about court cases, people started saying, oh, there's no point anyway, and oh, you're never going to succeed. And actually, the truth is, and this is something I see because I'm working with so many court cases, there are court cases happening all the time, okay? And victim court cases are being prepared and being fought all the time, and people are having successes. Sometimes there are gag orders, right? Sometimes people can't talk about it. That's why you don't hear about it. And this is what I'm trying to fight going forward, is to actually get around these gag orders by making everything public as we go into court, right? But, you know, the truth is, this is happening all the time. So if you're a victim, you have to be right in there. If you're an observer, you have to be kept up to speed about these things. Okay, so this is happening right now, people. We are shaping our future, and we're shaping our society right now through these court cases. So it is super important that you are not discouraged, that you actually take an active part, that your court case becomes one of those that will, you know, help us shape society going forward, and help us shut down this global organized crime cartel that, I remind you, has been with us for thousands and thousands of years. So it's the first time we all, you know, are faced with them, and we are all tackling them together, you know. And the other thing I would like to say is that going forward, I would like to put on a lot more videos about kind of ways to fight back in a psychological way, in a practical, hands-on way. So there's some shielding tips, but the truth is, when they really crank up the guns, there's virtually no way to shield yourself unless you can go and live in a cave and have a mountain above you, or if you have literally, I don't know what, 10 or 12-inch steel, you know, casing around your home. I think that also should be pretty good, as far as I know, you know. But most of us can't have that. So most of us are pretty defenseless, and most of us will get hurt every day and every night, and most of us will get physical damage, and, you know, a lot of the time permanent physical damage that we just cannot help. Okay, that's the situation. This is a war. They will mutilate us. They will maim us. That's their goal. They have already maimed me, right? But when you're faced with this, you can either, you know, wither inside and crumble and crash, or you could think, oh shit, they really want to damage me. This means I have to speed up. Okay. Now, there are these two strategies. Okay. And some people, you know, I'm in touch with, they remind me that apparently there's this difference in America between buffaloes and cows. Okay, so as this, you can tell this difference in the, you know, just near the Rockies, where it's very rainy apparently, right, and very stormy. So when a storm is coming across the Rockies, right, in the plains, any grazing animals now have a choice. Are they going to run away from these thunderstorms with the massive downpour, or are they going to run towards it? And typically buffaloes run towards the thunderstorm, as crazy as that sounds, and the cows run away from it. Now, the upshot is that the cows actually, a lot of the time, run with the thunderstorm. So they're actually under the downpour for a lot longer. But if you're a buffalo and you run towards the thunderstorm, you actually through it, right? There's, you know, the velocity is like double. Okay, so this thing is actually receding from you twice as fast as if you were just stationary, you know. So this is what happens, or rather twice as fast compared to the cows, which, you know, will be just followed by the rain. And the same applies to targeting. You can either run away from it, or you literally just make a beeline, you know, towards the court, and you will just drag these people right into court, right? And when all the courts in Europe and the US start being hit by hundreds and hundreds of cases suing the intelligence agencies for crimes against humanity, suddenly the seat under the backsides of the heads of intel will get very, very hot. You know, and the same applies to the Air Force Space Command, who are commanding these satellite weapons that are shooting in the head as I'm talking to you, you know. So the heads of the military have something coming at the moment as a result of their psychopathy and their control files, which I believe, you know, in every single case will involve a snuff movie involving a child, as in the murder of a child, right? These people feel like, well, killing us is still the best option. But I think they haven't quite factored in the length of the arm of the law, right? In the case of crimes against humanity, there's no limitation period, which means literally they will have to look over their shoulder until the end of their days, right? Because at any point, there can be a court order and dragging them into jail and dragging them into an execution. So in a sense, this is also what I'm trying to build up towards, because when you are head of intel, you're basically being threatened by the global Nazi mafia, which, you know, will make it clear to you that if you don't act in their interest, they will kill you and your family if you're the head of intel. Okay, so a head of MI6 has this choice, right? So obviously, right, Andrew Parker and Alex Younger will work with the crime cartel, as all their predecessors have done since MI6 was founded. But the whole game changes when suddenly they are faced between a choice of having their career and their life and their family's life destroyed by the Nazi mafia, or the Nazi mafia actually going down, the Nazi mafia being asset stripped, and actually society saying pretty much the same deal to them. You know, it's like, if you don't do what we're saying, well, we will destroy your career, you will end up in jail, we will kill you under lawful execution, and your family's life will be wrecked. And most likely your wife's going to divorce you, you know, your children might kill themselves because they can't live with, you know, having a Nazi as their father. In the current situation of having social media all around them, they will be reminded of their Nazi parents until the day they die, and many people can't handle that. Okay, so society too can say to a head of MI6, look, if you don't, you know, get us out of this deep shit, well, your career will be over, your life will be over, and probably your family will be destroyed too, even though we don't really intend it, but that will be the side effect, you know. So, right now, as soon as you have that, this balance is even again, right? Who do you want your life to be destroyed by? The crime cartel, which you know is going down. If you switch sides, you actually have the law behind you. You can have actually protection in the long term. You also know that most Masons really don't fancy having their balls chipped, or if because they all are chipped already, they really rather have that taken out before, you know, it causes tumors and renders them you know, impotent and incontinent and generally incompetent, which is what they already are, right? But anyway, so, you know, at the moment, really, it looks like to Alex Younger, the best deal is to just continue with this bullshit. And the head of military, the Swiss military, still continues to machine gun me. The head of the Air Force Space Command still continues to machine gun the Americans and the Europeans with directed energy weapons from satellites. But that is going to change very quickly over the coming weeks and months when they realize, actually, if they continue to do that, they have just forfeited all of their assets, okay, and their life, and their right to life as well. So the question is, at what point will complete psychopaths understand that the game is over, you know? So really what we're up against is utter, you know, mental degeneracy, and that has rendered these people so utterly moronic, they can't see just how fucked they are, right? And in this moment of being cornered and not seeing that there's no fighting chance of ever getting the fuck out of their situation, these people still keep shooting us, still keep murdering witnesses, still keep intimidating judges, and still think that they will get away with it, even though there's now a non-linear process rolling towards them, which means that if they have, you know, in 1 week, still 5 months or 8 months left to make up their mind if they're going to be with the cartel or with us, a non-linear process means that maybe the week later, they will only have 4 weeks left. And, you know, a week later, it already will be game over. Right? So that's a nonlinear process. So your thinking time does not remain the same. You will actually get fucked at an exponential rate. You know, that's a nonlinear process. So, but because these guys are more like the, you know, the human trafficking assassin type, not really the MAFC systems analysis type, well, these guys don't really get it, okay? So at this moment in time, my wall continues to be machine gunned through this broadcast because the head of the Swiss military appears to be a total fucking moron, right? And the head of the Air Force Space Command also seems to have his head up his rear side. But that's going to change very quickly, okay? When even the last gibbering, you know, fucktard will understand that the game is up, which will come over the coming months and weeks, actually, and it will hit them very fast. But until then, okay, until then, our situation is very difficult. It will stay difficult and might even get more difficult. They might kill relatives. They will continue killing pets because they haven't stopped. They will continue murdering people in your neighborhood. They will continue killing your loved ones. They will continue killing you and me, okay? And in that sort of situation, you need such an absolutely extraordinary mental resilience that most people really struggle, okay? In this phase, when we are all, actually what we have to do is run towards the oncoming storm at full pace, you know, a lot of people will actually do the opposite. They will turn and try to run away, which will be the worst thing on planet Earth. And the reason why that's the worst thing is because if all the strong people are hitting the courts and you are part of the people who don't, well, who do you think the cartel will continue to human traffic, right? When people are requesting injunctions, when they have their court cases on file, on the public record, you know, the actual cost in torturing somebody with a court file and the public record of their torture, the cost of that will shoot up exponentially. Meanwhile, you haven't got your court file ready. There's nothing about you in your official record that even, you know, says you exist. What do you think is going to happen to you, right? If there's in this moment still pressure from the Nazi mafia on the heads of Intel to continue human trafficking people, to continue raping some people, to continue murdering some people, but at the same time, the pressure is building and there are already cases on file, right, where this sort of maiming and torture and murder by Andrew Parker and his associates, by Alex Younger and his associates, by, you know, Jean-Philippe Gaudin here in Switzerland, by Dr. Bruno Karl in Germany, is rather obvious. What do you think is going to happen in this twilight zone as the system is shifting, you know? Because it's not, in the beginning, it looks like we're down here, we don't have weapons, we have nothing going for us. And the cartel has all the weapons, all the money, it has everything going for it, right? So we're in this phase where the heads of Intel still think, oh, that's the winning proposition, not knowing that the shift will not go like this, taking 20 years. The shift will go woof. Okay, that's a nonlinear shift. It crawls and crawls and crawls. In the beginning, it takes years and years and months, and then it just takes days, hours, and seconds, and woof, we flipped. That's a nonlinear process that none of these morons actually understand. But I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen, and it's going to happen this year. So we're in this phase. Now, this is the most dangerous phase, okay, because there will be huge shear forces, right? All the big crime families of Europe, right, that we know as the big banking families, and, you know, some of the royals who are deeply involved in crime, will suddenly feel the squeeze and will start taking desperate measures. And as a result of their control files, as a result of being in on it together, right, they will just take the most moronic strategy, because that's what they have been brought up to do. That is what the entire Masonic brainwash, the entire crime cartel, Jesuit brainwash was about, is to make them always, you know, inscribe the same strategy on them. And only those who have their head out of their ass and don't have particularly strong control files on them will be able to migrate out. So suddenly there will be shear forces within the royal families, which I remind you, they're all related, right? It's one big family. But what will happen is some crazy uncles will have, you know, kiddie snuff movie control files. And other royals, well, they might have taken cocaine, you know, or might have cheated on their spouse. As far as control files go, it's like, you know, turns out everybody took cocaine, you know, if they're in parliament. And really, a third of the people cheat on their spouse, so, right? But at least you haven't killed the kid, okay? So, so who do you think is going to migrate out first, right, as this is blowing up? So there will be these huge shear forces, right? Big family, you know, discussions and arguments, right? When suddenly all the royals discover, well, they can't go down that. Now, I can't do anything about that, right? And this is not a threat coming from me. I am just explaining how the system works, okay, and what's going to go down. And this whole thing was already predicted in the power transition model, but, you know, much more detailed. There's other predictions as well, which go in pretty much in the same thing, same direction. All of these predictions were done by pretty much the most brilliant minds we had on the planet. So I'm going with them, okay? This is what's going to happen. Now, in this transition, which actually we have never ever witnessed before in our entire human experience, we have never ever migrated out of this crime cartel. Okay, so this is a complete world premiere. In this transition, you know, crazy things will happen, because there's still all this lying. There's still all these people who think pathological lying can actually get them somewhere in the 21st century, when it really can't, with all the, you know, networks we have. You know, these people will do all sorts of crazy things and all sorts of desperate measures. So the best thing actually is to be 100% transparent. I mean, there's two ways to kind of go work around this. Number one is to slow down the transition, okay, to make it really gradual. In physics would call it a diabetic, I think that's the word I'm looking for, transition. But the truth is, in this case, we just freaking can't, okay? We just can't. It's not in anybody's power to actually slow down the system. So you might as well forget about it. You couldn't do it even if you owned all the banks. You couldn't do it if you owned all the militaries, because it's inherent in the non-linearity of the system that it will be freaking non-linear. I mean, because it's inherent in the system, you can't rebuild the system, okay? So you can't slow down the system. It will literally just go like, boom, okay? And there's nothing you can do about it. So the only thing you can do to make this process as kind of smooth as possible is to be 100% transparent, and actually to track something that is intrinsic in the majority of people, which is their sense of justice and their sense of integrity, you know, and what we call the rule of law. If you make a map, I'm getting very sophisticated now here, but please bear with me. If you draw a map and you actually, you know, you make a diagram of this complex human system, it's like a little engine, okay? Now, every engine has the most efficient cycle that it could possibly produce, right? Where it's actually putting out the most work it can possibly do. And in human systems, that's the most benefit for everybody, all of the participants. Now, this cycle with putting out the most work in the most efficient way, or putting out the most profit for everybody concerned, it's called the Carnot cycle. It is the most efficient thing that this system can produce, and it's maximizing profit for everybody. It's the most benefit you can get out of a system, right? There's no way to improve on the Carnot cycle, right? Even if you're the richest man on the planet, or if you own everything, or you think you own everything and everybody, there's no way to improve on the Carnot cycle, because that is just the law of physics, okay? It's the inherent to the system. In terms of human systems, the Carnot cycle is actually tracking the rule of law and 100% transparency when all the participants know exactly what's going down, right? You divert away from the Carnot cycle if you cover things up, because suddenly you have an asymmetry. Not all participants in the system have the same information, right? If you try to screw them over, if parties try to screw each other over, but whatever they do, temporarily, it will seem like they got more gain out than the other party, but actually overall, the system got less work out of it, and what got introduced is an efficiency, a bit of friction in the machine. And because the players who are really our biggest concern own most of the system, right? We're talking about the Masons and, you know, the banking crime cartel and the black nobility and the royal families, right? It's not that many people. By fucking each other over, they don't realize, but what they're doing is they're actually introducing friction, which in a nonlinear system very quickly turns into nonlinear friction. In other words, a huge fucking loss for themselves, right? And these people will do that. They will fuck themselves because they don't understand systems, okay? They are royals, they are bankers, they are criminals, they are assassins, and so on, but they're not really mathematicians, okay? Now, in this, what they will do is they will introduce friction by trying to screw each other over, because they're psychopaths and this is what they have been doing. But by doing so, they will fuck themselves, okay? They will actually get less profit out of the system than they possibly could do. Now, actually, for the rest of us, this is a pretty good thing, because through that, they are taking themselves down. Their ultimate position after the transition will be much lower than it would have been had they all played ball and had they all stuck to the rule of law. Okay, so now to give you concrete examples, right? Because for most people, this is probably a bit too abstract. I will make more presentations on Patreon to explain it better, but this is something you all need to understand, okay? To give you an example how this works, let's say the fusion centers are, you know, an FBI office in one of the US states, or a police department, or let's say an intel agency in one of the European countries. You know, one big entity continues with targeting. Let's say, you know, after this announcement, they continue tomorrow. Well, what they will do is they will keep accruing evidence. They generate evidence. They introduce friction into the system. And then what it is you kind of have a rebound effect. So you screw people, so they will try to get back at you. They can get back at you in many ways. They could get back at you with a court case. If you keep generating evidence for them and they get put into a court case, they can get back at you really hard. So for you as one of the actors in the system, that's a black swan event. You know, it's very rare, but causing you huge losses. So you thought you can get away with targeting, and this is all fine, but suddenly these court cases roll in. Maybe they are court cases based on the evidence you have just generated starting from tomorrow, and that's what's going to hit you in the balls, basically. And that's what's going to destroy all your income. You know? As I'm talking, I'm not sure if you can hear, but there's an entire pattern on my wall of just shots, just keep hitting, keep hitting. So typically that's the sign of me being right above the target. But I'm telling you, this is how it is. Okay. So in other words, the people who will gain the absolute most out of this transition are the people who are tracking 100% transparency and are tracking the rule of law. And that's because there is no way to get at them. There's no way to suddenly find dirt on them because it's all transparent. They stuck to the rule of law. There's no way to sue them later. And also, as the really grimy black actors will be revealed, their vest will look whiter and whiter compared to everybody else. So they will become actually really prime, you know, cooperation partners, trading partners, business partners, everything. You know, suddenly as the tide goes out, you know, if you're not one of those people without any, you know, shorts on, suddenly it's a lot more pleasant, right, to be dealing with you. Now everybody else, right, will suddenly see all the stuff that they've been up to, and a lot of it will be horrific, right? I can tell you that much. So right now, the really smart money goes into those businesses that already from tomorrow onwards are playing on 100% transparency and follow the rule of law down to T and try to maximize the sense of justice for all their clients, their business partners, and their actors. If you're a psychopath, you don't really know what the sense of justice and integrity is. So you probably have to get in some consultants because you just missed the modules in your head, okay? But for everybody who isn't completely fucked in their head like a psychopath, it's pretty obvious what this sensation of, you know, feeling justly treated is like, you know? All of us have this as an inner compass, actually, you know? So for us, it's clear as day what needs to be done, you know? So, you know, this is something you have to realize. So anyway, the smart countries, the countries that will have booming economies are those that can actually put into place rule of law and transparency the quickest. Now, again, there will be the sheer effect. These countries will be uplifted because suddenly all the businesses migrate there because they are safe haven. They have got rule of law. They've got safe police. They are not committing a genocide. They're not feeding their population GMOs. People are not scared to breathe the air. There are no chemtrails. There are no fucking synthetic fibers coming down from the sky covering their lawns. Their children are not chipped in their head. They can't be taken over. They are not brain damaged. That's a powerful country. It will just go from boom to boom. All the others will look like fucking shitholes in comparison. So where do you think the money is going to flow? You know? And this will be the huge difference. Now, every head of state, every government, every person who has 2 brain cells by now should have figured out that that's the place they should be. So if you still have investments in genocide projects, I am sorry, you are just signing up for the flock of black swans, right? Because any one of your investments can actually generate litigation where it turns out that you have been funding a transnational organized crime outfit. And remember, ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you can be proven as an investor to have invested in genocide, in covert chipping, in crimes against humanity, well, let me tell you, you're fucked. You're fucked. You've just forfeited all your private assets. And you're probably most likely going to jail. Or for the rest of your life, people can dig that up because these are crimes against humanity and then asset strip you later, right? Are you up for that? Right? If you're not, this is now the time to go through your investment portfolio and really minimize the potential for these black swans. You really go through and check where the fuck is your money going. You might have put your money stupidly into these like combined, you know, funds, which look like a big washing machine that just goes like blah, and your money is just circulating and you don't really know where the fuck your money is because it's somebody else dealing with it. Well, if you're in that sort of situation, you're setting yourself up to be thoroughly fucked. Okay. And I'm telling you right now, everything looks rosy. And that's because you're on this side of the cycle, right? When the whole cycle ends on the other side of the turning point, it will go very fast and you will end up on the bottom ass end of society because you have all these court cases and they will actually drain your finances, you know? And this is absolutely serious. And there's no way you can ever get out of this because the amount of information available to the public about you and where you invested is just going to increase. It's never, ever going to decrease. That you will never, ever have your privacy back, ever. You know, and again, it's not me threatening. It's, you can say thank you to Hayden and Tenet and the NSA for bringing that to you, right? They have collected everything about you. They've put it into big national archives, which means that the information can be subpoenaed by a court at any time, right? You just got fucked, right? So this is what we're dealing with, okay? So everybody has to understand this. If you're a victim, what you have to understand that your life will look shit. It will look like it's getting worse because you will start being hammered harder and harder. Now, if you take that to be a sign of what the next 20 years will be like, you would just typically just, you know, try to go very small, hide somewhere, and that would probably be the worst thing you could do. Because in actual fact, this whole thing will be over this year with tidying up operation next year and, you know, the years to come. But right now is when you actually have to be running towards the court. You have to be running towards the hailstorm, right? To get your case on file so that you're one of those people who are safe, who will become ever more untouchable because you have this evidence as a court record. If you will get killed, you will be actually one of the Holocaust entries, you know, for people to look into next year. Not in 20 years' time, like in the Second World War. No, next year, right? Do you think a head of Intel, who's maybe has plans of living past next year, would want to put up with that? Right? No. So this is why they're trying to discouraging you all, right? They're trying to make you run away from the hailstorm so that they can actually, you know, harvest you as you're running away. You have to go the other way and you have to harvest them. You're like, no, guys, we want to have your balls in court. We want to have your private assets and we want to have your head lawfully on a silver platter. You know, that's what you should be like right now. And, I'm probably most, I don't know, most commentators out there, they will not tell you this because most commentators out there still believe that the next year will be like all the years we had in previous human history, but it will not be like that. It will absolutely not be like that, okay? Right now, there's already massive shear forces, and if you know where to look, you are already feeling this, right? To give you an example about, you know, shear forces actually now revealing themselves, look at the ban of 5G. 5G is absolutely crucial to have us all exterminated, right? But already, you know, Brussels has fallen, they banned 5G. The UK is falling, they are about to ban 5G. You know, if the Swiss have their head out, you know, off their ass, they would also be one of the first to ban 5G. They are a bit slow, these people here, but they do have direct democracy, right? So the smart places are already moving out of the genocide, you know? And just a few months ago, people would have told you, oh, there's nothing you can do. You just can't fight these big corporations. No, you can't fight the big corporations when the judge understands that his daughter, his son, his own balls will be fried, you know, as he's traveling to work in London if there's 5G, right? And sometimes these judges play stupid, but most of the time they're very brilliant people. They can literally read through ring binders, you know, so many ring binders per day that it would just floor me, right? But they just do it. And they know, they have an eye for what the key issues are. That's what they are trained to do as a job. So when you're presenting a case, I'm telling you, it will not take a judge very long to figure out what's going on. This was my experience with all the judges I stood before in the High Court. None of them struggled with comprehension, right? They were on the ball. And I told you that, you know, a while back, I told you that the way I'm assessing somebody's, well, I don't really want to call it intelligence. I would call it like, you know, mental fitness. Is I would tell them about targeting, I would tell them about chipping and, you know, directed energy weapons, and I would tell them about synthetic telepathy and about, you know, the body area networks and an internet of things in our body and the synthetic telepathy internet already being out there. I would just go like, blah, there's the information, and I would watch their face, right? If they're an agent, they will not have any expression on their face. They would be focused on what to say to me to kind of get information or involve me in a skit. They would be focused. The normal person would have the what the fuck face, okay, if they never heard about it. Everybody has the what the fuck face. I had it for 6 years, okay? And then it's down to their mental fitness for how long the what the fuck face lasts, right? With the average parent, spouse, or sibling, or family member, and uncle, it might last a couple of years where they think, oh yeah, look, there he is again, or there she is again, going on about this stuff. Woo! Right? What the fuck? Well, this might drag on. Now, that's Joe average. It might take years. People who are more involved in current affairs, well, they might, you know, still have that for a couple of months, right? With some top investigators who maybe know about the deep state and so on, but have never heard about chips and synthetic telepathy, it might still last a couple of weeks, right? And then there are the people who only take a couple of days to come, you know, get over it. And I've met a very smart doctor who literally just took minutes, right? And then his what the fuck face disappeared. And he said, actually, now that you mention it, I have heard about Alzheimer's patients being chipped. So it's not too far off what you're saying, you know? And the truth is, when I spoke in front of the judges, their what the fuck face lasted minutes, not hours or days or months or years. So I could tell, my God, I'm talking to really clued in people here, you know. I mean, they looked shocked. Their what the fuck face was pretty pronounced in every single case. They were like, oh my God, what the fuck, right? And then I would just continue talking, and I could just see the little gray cells started working, you know, the cogs started turning faster and faster. And then after a couple of minutes, they were like, okay, fuck, this is awful. Let's deal with this, right? That's a pretty highly trained person, okay? And most people, most of these shills in our chat, they will not tell you this. They will not give you all these fine details about what our population looks like. They will just say, oh, if you go to court, you will never succeed, right? They will not explain why not, what might change, okay? So this is what you need to hear. And I will explain this in much greater detail, maybe using, again, a whiteboard behind me so that every last one of you will get it, but that will be done on the Patreon. However, this is such an important message that I'll put it out now on YouTube for free. So in a nutshell, what you need to understand is that this year is super important. This year, the massive transition will happen that has never, ever happened before on our planet, ever before. It is something fundamentally new. In systems analysis, it's actually called an emergent phenomenon that is scale dependent. But forget about the technical terms. All that matters to you is that whatever you will, you know, see happen this year is something that no human being has ever seen before on planet Earth. It will be fucking amazing. Now, you can either run away and just hide somewhere, or you can actually take part. And now, if you take part over the coming months, because the system is so massively nonlinear, no matter how small your contribution, it will be blown up to huge scales. Okay, that's what nonlinear systems do. It's like the butterfly effect amplified. And in this case, butterfly doesn't mean monarch programming, okay? It just means the nonlinear system, the butterfly that can cause a tornado by flapping its wings. Most of the time, a butterfly can't. In a nonlinear system, it can, and it does it all the time. So the same applies to you, okay? Now is the time to put out your YouTube videos. Now is the time to actually create your maybe public persona, to actually, you know, talk to family and friends, to put yourself out there in the community. And the reason why now is the time is because you will stick in people's minds. You will be the icebreaker. You will be the first person maybe who talks to them about it. And this will stick in their minds. And then over the coming months, there will be more and more people who sound like you, but in their minds, these will be other people who sound like you. You will be the person they remember. So in other words, your influence will just amplify over the coming months, okay? It will be huge. Your YouTube videos will be something that will be remembered. It will go down in history, okay, as the people who helped to bring about this change, okay? So now, this year is like the celebration of rule of law and integrity, because whoever tracks rule of law and integrity, like meticulously, doesn't screw people over, doesn't behave in an unfair way, you know, doesn't cheat, doesn't steal money, doesn't gun people with directed energy weapons, well, those people will be the winners in all this, you know, because there's no dirt on them that could be dug up in the NSA database. They haven't taken part in crimes against humanity. They have never invested in genocide programs, because most of the time they didn't have money because they got assets stripped. But, you know, in the long term, that's a good thing. You don't have a massive court case rolling towards you that could take your house and your assets, you know? So this is what it's about, okay? And nobody explains this out there. So I would like to be, you know, a person who actually, you know, makes this point. And this will be very, very special. Like the monetary and societal benefits and career benefits of integrity this year will have been unprecedented in human history. Okay, that's what is happening. And actually, a lot of people paid with their life to bring this knowledge, you know, to us. I strongly believe that John Nash was one of them, you know, and but there are many, many more people who I don't really want to name right now. And they have all been working on bringing this about, on bringing the entire analysis about this, you know, to the public. And now it's here. Now it's with us. Okay. So this is the reason why, even though these assholes are machine gunning my wall, I'm very, very confident. And what I would like to do on the Patreon channel from now on is also explain everything I said today in much more detail, and also put up a lot of videos which are about how to have the right mental mindset for this transition, how to have the resilience, how to have the sort of inner strength to stay the course. And it will be very neutral, because I'm an atheist. It will not be kind of, you know, it will not have any religious slant. So it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or Buddhist or Christian or an atheist. Whatever I say will apply to all, because it doesn't use any religious concept. It just uses laws of physics, which are universal to us all. And it uses some experiences and insights I gathered from having seen this asset stripping operation already once before, which is when I grew up in communist Romania as a Hungarian. So I have seen this movie before. I know how it ended last time. I know what's different now. And I can tell you how my family and I coped through the last, you know, wash cycle of this whole cartel thing. So anyway, I hope that will benefit you. So these are my plans. I don't want to drag this out any longer. Thank you very, very, very much for all your support. And I already thank all of those people who decide to help me. I will, you know, make good on my promise. You can see my track record. I went public at the end of November 2016. So since then, for over 2 years, I have just delivered everything, all my interviews, all my work, all my insight, completely free. That's not going to go away. And I will also not change my personality going forward. So what you saw the last 2 years is what I'm going to put out going forward, with the added kind of, you know, poignancy of now really working towards the court cases and really working towards, you know, helping to bring about a smooth transition. Okay, so this is what I'm working on. And ironically, really ironically, actually, you know, what I'm doing is contributing to saving the ass and the life, you know, of the current heads of European Intel. So it is pretty ironic they shoot me in the head, because I'm one of those few people who can actually, you know, I'm not trying to be arrogant here, but I actually know how the system works. So I actually know what they need to do to save their ass, right? Not very many people will put it quite as openly, not even their advisors, because their advisors also have control files. So actually, you know, I'm one of those few people who is kind of like the ultimate genuine Switzerland. I'm neutral. I hate all of these intel agencies. I really don't give a fuck about any of them. What I really care about is the system, our societal system, our complex human system. That is our global society. And I really care about that, you know. So I'm one of the people who doesn't have a control file. I don't have any national allegiances. You know, I'm a Hungarian born in Romania, who grew up in Germany, who studied in the United Kingdom, who worked in, you know, Switzerland at CERN, but lived in France and now lives in Switzerland and now works internationally. So, right? I don't have any national associations. I don't have or ties. In actual fact, I have been machine gunned into the head by all of these countries, right? Even my homeland, you know, of where I was born in Romania, even my, you know, the country where I ethnically belong, which is Hungary, right? Germany, where I grew up, has machine gunned me in the head. The UK, yes, they, I think, you know, trafficked me big time. Switzerland, where I live now. So, you know, I'm pretty neutral about all of this stuff. So if you want to hear my message, make your way across to Patreon. I assure you that I will, you know, continue what I'm doing now. I assure you I will stay neutral. I don't have any personal interests. I'm not getting paid by anybody apart from you guys who are crowdfunding this. I am not connected to any big single donors who have given me any big wad of cash at some point in my life. Literally, the only thing that is actually giving me a way to survive are the many, many, many little donors who really help me. And it is actually you guys who have helped me survive through this, you know, the last couple of months and all throughout 2018. Because if you hadn't helped me, I probably would have been homeless without food a long time ago, you know. And then finally, I would like to finish off by reminding you all that it's not just me who you have to crowdfund. There are many, many, many other victims who also need your help. So maybe also start looking for those. Maybe actively start looking for people with GoFundMe or crowdfunding pages or donate buttons, you know, and start giving them also something. And I would like to remind people that in some religious communities and some previous, you know, human societies, it was actually kind of a civic duty to I think it was called tithing, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, or just charity. But it was just a habit of giving something like, I think the rate depended, but it was between 5 and 10%. Sometimes it was 5, sometimes 10. So 5 to 10% of your income for pro bono, so for the public good sort of projects, you know, as a kind of charitable donation. Now, if you take your, I would say your post-tax income, not your pre-tax income, you know, I mean, you're being taxed already, but if you take your post-tax disposable income, right, after you paid for the food for your children and the roof over your head and the heating, you know, and internet, all the stuff that you need. If you look at whatever you have left as your disposable income, as maybe your fun budget, and you think you take 10% off that, you can just do the calculation. How much is that? You know, I mean, for most people, it should be more than just $5, you know, which is my threshold. So take that and maybe make the decision that throughout this year of cycling, you know, out of the biggest hellhole that we had, which was this global crime cartel, in this year of cycling, how about every month you start giving a charitable donation, and you start, you know, sprinkling it around to all the victims or everybody who's needy. It could be somebody in your community. Maybe you need to help somebody out of debt. Maybe somebody really needs help with actually detoxing and, you know, going off drugs because the crime cartel got them hooked on highly addictive drugs, right? Remember, all the drugs are imported into our countries by this crime cartel. So it actually, you know, helps your society by getting people off the drugs again, you know. So there are many, many projects of getting the fuck out of this organized crime cartel. Also helping people out of human trafficking and prostitution is actually helping them out of this crime cartel, you know. Helping police officers fight court cases against their employers might also be helping society out of this crime cartel, because a lot of police services are under the control of the Masonic crime cartel, you know. So all of these things are actually part of the very same project, you know. So, you know, look out for these things. Look at crowdfunding sites for court cases, to help people with personal projects, with personal problems, you know, to help sites like these. All of this is really important. So please take this message, you know, as a wake-up call. Now you understand why this year I'm appealing for money, because it is this year. I have been gone since the 10th of January of 2016, continuously every day, right? And I have been horrifically, you know, mutilated. This is where this circle comes from, already last year in 2018. Yet it is now in 2019 that I'm begging you to help me, you know, fund my life, so that I can work on court cases, because this year will be the most important. Okay, because this year is the transition year. All right, so this is why I'm now asking, you know. And at the same time, yes, I'm also, you know, pulling my weight. I'm doing consulting, and that's actually what's meant to be most of my income, right? I want to build up this consulting business, and then eventually I'll launch the startups that were sabotaged. But right now, you know, sometimes I can't even do all the consulting I want to do, and I can't advertise for that because I'm working full-time on court preparations pro bono. So this is, you know, I'm now being 100% transparent about what I do. And my day-to-day pretty much consists of me sitting at my desk, sometimes 16 hours per day, sometimes longer, and just working or trying to work, you know, and trying to stop this genocide, just trying to stop my own torture. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not spending your money on, I don't know what, fun and cinema tickets, or, you know, going on holidays, because I don't have time. I might spend it on a laptop battery, you know, or pencils, you know, or rent and this sort of stuff, you know, or travel expenses to go to scanning or to go to court fees, this sort of stuff. Sometimes legal advice that I try to get in homeopathic doses, right? I'm not going to blow your money on some fucking lawyer, because I've seen enough lawyers to know that they are a waste of money most of the time, right? I will represent myself. That's the strategy. But occasionally I need to buy in some, you know, comment or advice on some little aspect. And then, of course, it costs, right? But not as much as a full-time lawyer. So this is the situation. Thank you so much for listening. This will be on YouTube. I will still appear on YouTube, but I will just make very brief comments and then start diverting everybody across to Patreon. Now, please don't take this to be disrespectfulness or being greedy and after money. No, it's not. I just really have to now, you know, focus on that. It really benefits us all. So, thank you very, very much for listening. Thank you very much for supporting me. Thank you very, very much for all the things that all of you are doing, you know, all the pressing likes and subscribing and, you know, batting down the trolls and all this sort of stuff, and then sending positive messages. Actually, that was the antidote to all the toxic terror that the intelligence agencies have been conducting against me. If you hadn't sent all your positive messages, I would not be here where I am now. Most likely, I would be dead. So thank you to all for saving my life, and I will return this favor by trying to save as many lives as I can in turn. Thank you very much for listening, and bye for now. See you on my Patreon site.